picture yourself doing as an adult. Were you thinking that you were going to
No,
be
God,
a
no. My dad died when I was.
politician,
No, I never. I've always been interested in public policy, and always. I think, like most people, you look at government and wonder, and you say, how can it really be as bad as it looks? No. My dad died when I was 20. I had 4 sisters, no money. Left school, went to work, and worked for. Put myself through college ultimately, and started a business. I had an old backhoe, a CK580, a case. I started out doing little home projects, and pretty quickly, just grew the business. And ultimately, after almost 30 years, we did millions and millions of dollars worth of work, and had lots of employees. I've got 35 years as a union member, operating engineer. So, my life has been built out of getting out of bed in the morning, doing the same thing right every day, building a product, building relationships, and doing it in a small town where your reputation is everything. You know everybody, and you work for everybody more than twice. So, there's really a strong incentive to treat people well and earn what you get paid for, and that's the way I ran my life. It was I didn't get married till I was 50 because I was, frankly, wasn't on my radar. And then I met a great lady and married. Now at 63, I've got a 7-year-old and a 6-year-old, and
wow.
I feel like I'm re-energized. Every time I go home and see them, it just reminds me of a couple of things. One, that I should have gotten married 20 years earlier to the same person, and 2, that I like kids a lot more than I thought I did.
Well, you started your business, it was almost more than 40 years ago now. How do you, would you say, based on just all your conversations with your constituents, you'd say, is it harder for people to do what you do?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. If there's anything that's profoundly obvious to me, it's that, in particular in New York State, people feel as though they cannot do, and that this country, in New York in particular, cannot meet the promise that matches their expectations, which is, for most people, it's, a car, a home, 2 kids through college, and a dignified retirement, and a job where you don't have to count every penny. You can actually go to dinner and save a little bit for the future. But, the average, the median age in the district I represent is like 40, I think something low 40s for a family of 4. That's almost an impossible situation. And, the problem is New York State is kind of emblematic of what's wrong with the country. New York is a very, very difficult place to grow a business, difficult place to keep kids. When I started this job 4 years ago, the median age, I think, was about 54 or 5, and now it's 56 or 7. Young people are not staying around. The opportunity isn't there. But yet, I'll say this on the positive side, I've been all over the country. It's one of the most beautiful places. I live at the edge of the Adirondacks. I wouldn't want to live anywhere else. It is a great and beautiful state. But it's just a tough place.
By the way, and I'm going to completely agree with you on that. But you touched on a subject that I wanted to hit, because you're a congressman from a state that has sort of, not entirely unique, but a bit of a bicameral status. A lot of people in upstate New York, and I'm sure you're aware of these complaints, have issues with the fact that we're divided into 2. There's the upstate area, there's the New York City area, and New York City has such a heavy weight with the money. They have such a heavy weight.
You want the quintessential example of that is that SAFE Act. I'm a gun owner. I've got a concealed weapons permit. All my friends and family hunt. And if there's an issue that was stuffed down our throat, it was a SAFE Act. And if you look at the governor's race, the majority of counties didn't support him, and it's because of the SAFE Act. My attitude is New York City wants to have the most strict gun laws in the world or in the country. That's their business. But they just told everybody upstate what to do based on their values and not based on, a broad idea of what New York's about. And a lot of it is guys like me who live in rural areas, people like to hunt, people who just want to own a gun. they may not like them, but that doesn't mean they should be doing what they did to the rest of us. And frankly, it doesn't make us any safer. We all know that. If you look at the last 60 or 70 gun incidences, they're always a mentally deranged person who got their hands on a gun.
One of these days, let us know the secret of how you got a concealed carry permit, because it's pretty hard up here. Trust me.
Yeah, it is hard.
From personal experience, trust me.
Right. I got lots of other things. I think I got a lot of seatbelt tickets and things like that. But they did let me carry a gun.
Go ahead, Doug.
Congressman, about your time in Congress. Now you're a member of the Conservative Republican Study Committee. You're a member of the NRA. You're also part, I believe, of the Main Street Partnership and other groups. So where would you? Because everybody, the media always wants a pigeonhole a member of Congress. I mean, do you pigeon yourself as a moderate conservative, a conservative?
Well, I think it depends on the issue. One of the reasons I belong to so many groups is I want information. One of the problems down here is people adapt what they a certain ideology and they check every box. Well, I want to know, I want to learn and understand, and there are things that are important that are truly investments, like infrastructure, and I support the Keystone Pipeline and education, things like that. And then there's I'm a fiscal conservative. I'm a guy whose life was built around starting with nothing, building a business, paying my bills, treating people well, and go doing the next job. And I'm a business guy. I think if I am anything, I represent, I think, what people like Thomas Jefferson think should happen in government. You come here, you serve for a few terms, and you go home. I meet people every day. Been here for 30, 40 years, even more. And that's what's wrong down here. Is there truly are career politicians who are more invested in keeping them their job than they are leading. And so what do? They get through the primary process. Primaries tend to be the general election these days, because of gerrymandering. So you wind up with circumstances where I think a lot of people are on the right and the left busy trying to outright and left each other, and you find yourself in a lot of the districts. And I'm happy that I have a swing district. I like that, and a competitive district. But I'm not going to do this forever. But I came here as a business guy who built something in New York that was very successful for many years, and I'd like to be able to see my kids do that. And my sister and my nephew run our business, and I have no part of it. But I don't. They're doing well, but I don't know how long they can. And I can tell you, I have a little boy, and I don't know that I would never expect that he would stay in New York and run that same business if New York doesn't change.
Okay, you brought up a good point, because after the last election, we've heard a lot of comments about there was a message from the public. They want Congress to, quote, work better. They want them to get things done. Are we on the verge of that happening? And whether we are or not, how do you see making Congress work better? So maybe their approval.
There are a lot of people here who want to say they want Congress to work better, but the evidence is that they want it to work better as long as they get their way. And that's part of the problem with the extremes of Congress that I've experienced. But in my own case, we had more bills pass the floor, become law, than every other 100 new members my first 2 years. I'd never signed pledges. I voted against the government shutdown. I've tried to be thoughtful and deliberate and issue by issue pick through them. What I do that nobody else, maybe one other person does, but as far as I know, out of the 535 people, there might be one other person, and we just hit 600 today. Every time we vote on a bill, we write a detailed explanation telling people not just yes or no or pass, but you can vote present. I've never done that. But what we were thinking, what the policy was about, why it made sense, to justify and substantiate and be transparent. You call my office, you want an answer on something, you'll hear back in 48 hours. That's because I ran a business, because we got great people that we have expectations of ourselves, and we try to fulfill them.
By the way,
as far as Congress going forward, it's anybody's guess. Tomorrow
I will tell
we will.
that if everybody follows Richard Hanna's Twitter feed, which I do, every time he casts a vote, they actually tweet out a link to the explanation of which way he voted and why he voted that way. Which I think
you know what they say to me here?
in Congress should do.
What they say to me here is that I'm doing my opposition's research. What I say back is it's transparency, it's integrity. This job is not something I'm entitled to. If I can't explain what I do, I shouldn't be doing it. People may not like it, but they deserve an explanation.
Sure.
Speaking of the opposition, the news coverage, even watching C-SPAN, you get people get the impression that, everybody's always at war, on both sides of the aisle. Is that really your experience, or have you found that there are opportunities to work across the aisle?
Oh, absolutely. You could pick out something like immigration. I do not approve of what the president did. Yet, the other side of the coin is immigration is something we all know is a pressing issue, and we need to debate it. So I'm looking forward to having the House debate it thoughtfully and deliberately, and I wish we had done it before now. Same with tax reform. We've been talking about the importance of tax reform. We have the most complicated tax code in the world. We used to have the most simple, or one of the simplest. We also have the highest corporate rates in the world. We're watching these inversions where companies are being bought out by overseas companies, or our companies are buying overseas companies and using that as an excuse to get beyond our tax law, and we're not doing anything about it. They estimate there's close to $2 trillion in money that could be repatriated, but we're not doing anything about that. So, I'm hopeful. We've got a Senate that's Republican. We've got a Republican House, and I think the 54 members in the Senate. It's not enough to get everything we want done, but we will have more control over the agenda. I think the Democrats will have more of an incentive to work with us, but we're still going to have to be reasonable because the president. We don't have 60 votes in the Senate, and the president can veto whatever he likes. I'd like to see the Keystone Pipeline passed. It's ridiculous that it hasn't. Gas may be cheaper today, but it won't be cheaper someday, and then who knows how far away that is. Things like that we should be able to get done easily. Immigration is going to be more difficult. Tax reform is going to be a big lift because it's so complicated, and there are so many exceptions and benefits that more or less pick winners and losers, and our tax code has been cleaned up since 1984.
All right, that seems to be what your priorities are going to be moving into the next year, and I realize we can't keep you all night. You have a lot of work to do. In closing, I got one last question for you. It's actually one that Doug suggested. Do you think relationships between the members and I, separately or together, Republicans, Democrats, or maybe just in your own party between conservatives and the more center stream people, would they be better if you spent more time in Washington together talking to each other? Do you guys do that, or do you spend too much time just separated?
One person at a time, every man and woman here is thoughtful, they're kind. Some are crazier than others, some make less sense than others, but, they're a good group, and they do get along, and they're very, there's a lot of, they're very polite, and there's a lot of congeniality. But I think what we need to do is have people willing to stand up and lead and be different than the party they're in, be willing to take a little bit different tact on some of the issues, because you talk to people privately and they don't always agree with their own votes. There's, as far as staying here over the weekend and things like that, I know that it used to be that way, but I can tell you, for my case, the most valuable time I have is back in the district with the people I work for. That you get to meet them, talk to them, and hear their frustrations and hear the anger. And, what happens a lot, too, you get to explain to people on a bill that they say they don't like at all, and they don't know why you did that. Once you talk to them, most of them are willing to listen. And the vast majority of the time, we're able to say to people, this is why we did this.